In the quiet, rolling hills of Greenleaf Valley, where the air smelled of fresh earth and honeysuckle, lived an old farmer named Joe. Joe's life was as simple and predictable as the rising sun. He had his small farmhouse, his overalls, and his vast, golden cornfield. And in the heart of that cornfield stood his only companion, a scarecrow named Rusty. Now, Rusty wasn't your average, run-of-the-mill scarecrow stuffed with straw and forgotten dreams. Oh no! Rusty had the sharp wit of a stand-up comedian and the larger-than-life ego of a Hollywood movie star. Every single morning, Joe would trudge out to the field, coffee in hand, and give his daily instruction. "Rusty," he'd say, "keep those pesky birds away from my corn." And every single morning, Rusty, with a voice that sounded suspiciously like a game show host, would fire back, "Joe, my man, let's be real. These crows aren't here for your corn. They come for the personality, the charm, the experience that is me." Joe would just shake his head, chuckle, and get back to his chores, trusting that Rusty's bluster was enough to keep the field safe. But one particularly bright and beautiful morning, something was terribly wrong. A strange silence hung over the valley. Joe woke up, stretched, and looked out his window. He blinked. He rubbed his eyes. He looked again. His entire magnificent cornfield was gone. Not a single stalk, not a single golden ear of corn remained. It was as if a giant, invisible lawnmower had visited in the night. Panicked, Joe sprinted out to the field, his heart pounding in his chest. And there, in the center of the barren wasteland, stood Rusty. He wasn't just standing there though. He was holding a makeshift microphone, a corncob stuck on a stick, and was deep in conversation with a lineup of crows, who were all listening intently. "So, Bartholomew," Rusty was saying, "tell the audience, what's it really like to see the world from 500 feet up?" Joe's face turned a shade of red that matched his old tractor. "Rusty," he bellowed, his voice echoing across the empty fields, "what have you done? You were supposed to protect the field." Rusty, without missing a beat, slowly turned. He dramatically flipped a pair of imaginary sunglasses onto his face and leaned into his corncob mic. "Relax, Joe. Take a deep breath. I'm building our brand. Farming is so last century. Podcasting, my friend, is the future." He gestured to the crows. "This is just the pilot episode of my new hit show, Crow Talk Live." Joe was speechless. His life's work had been eaten, and his scarecrow was launching a media empire. Before he could even formulate a response, the unbelievable happened. More crows began to arrive, dozens at first, then hundreds, then thousands. They swooped down from the sky, not in a chaotic, seething flock, but in an orderly fashion. They settled into neat rows on the empty dirt, like a perfectly behaved audience at a concert, squawking with applause every time Rusty cracked a joke. "What do you call a sad bird?" "A bluebird." The crows went wild. Why are crows so good at telling secrets? Because they never spill the beans, just the corn. The applause was deafening. Word of the bizarre spectacle spread faster than wildfire. Within days, Greenleaf Valley was no longer a sleepy, forgotten town. Drones buzzed overhead, capturing aerial footage. News vans with giant satellite dishes parked along Joe's dirt driveway. Influencers in pristine white sneakers tiptoed through the mud, posing for selfies with Rusty in the background, hashtagging him as a feathered philosopher and the guru of the grain, the mayor of the nearby town, a man who had never once paid Joe's farm any mind, showed up in a shiny black car. He didn't want to talk to Joe, of course. He offered Rusty a multi-platform TV deal and the key to the city. Joe stood on his porch, watching it all unfold, a bitter jealousy bubbling up inside him. This was his farm. That was his scarecrow. He had built Rusty with his own two hands, and now this straw-stuffed celebrity was getting all the glory. Driven by envy, Joe decided to take action. He spent an entire afternoon building a new scarecrow, a traditional, silent one with button eyes and a grim, stitched-on frown. He hauled it out to the field and propped it up right next to Rusty. There, Joe grumbled. A real scarecrow, but the new guy was a total dud. A gust of wind blew, and it just flopped over face first into the dirt, scaring absolutely no one. Meanwhile, Rusty's podcast had gone viral worldwide. He was getting fan mail from parrots in Peru and penguins in Antarctica. That night, Joe reached his breaking point. This had to end. He grabbed a thick rope from the barn and crept out into the field under the cover of darkness. His plan was simple: pull Rusty down, dismantle him, and end this whole ridiculous circus. He would have his quiet, boring, cornfield life back. But as he approached the center of the field, he stopped dead in his tracks. A low murmur filled the air. There, surrounding Rusty, was a dedicated guard of crows. They weren't sleeping. They were perched in a protective circle, many of them wearing tiny, leaf-made headphones, listening to reruns of the podcast. As Joe got closer, they turned their heads in unison, not with fear, but with loyalty. One of them let out a loud squawk, and soon others joined in. A chorus of cheers. "We love you, Rusty. We love you, Rusty." Joe stood there, the rope limp in his hands. He looked at the adoring crows, at the proud figure of Rusty standing tall under the moonlight, and something inside him finally clicked. He had been seeing this all wrong. This wasn't theft. It wasn't betrayal. This was transformation. His simple scarecrow hadn't just scared away birds. He had brought them together. He hadn't destroyed the farm. He had reinvented it. The next morning, as the sun cast a golden glow over the valley, Joe walked out to the field, not with anger, but with a smile. He didn't shout. He didn't grumble. He walked right up to the corncob microphone, stood beside Rusty, and said, "Rusty, my friend, I've been thinking. How about we farm laughs and corn together?" Rusty's painted-on smile seemed to stretch even wider. He threw a burlap arm around Joe's shoulders. Finally, he boomed into the mic. "My co-host has arrived. Joe, welcome to the show." And so began the most incredible partnership Greenleaf Valley had ever seen. They replanted the field, but this time, it was a comedy crop field. Each cornstalk had a little laminated sign with a joke on it. Why did the scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Became the Heirs of Laughs section. Visitors flocked from all over the world, paying for tickets to watch the live recordings of Crow Talk Live, with Farmer Joe as a charming, down-to-earth co-host who shared heartwarming stories of farm life. Farmers from other countries came not to learn about crop rotation, but about agricultural entertainment. Joe became wealthier than he ever could have dreamed, not just from selling tickets, but from merchandise t-shirts, mugs, and even little Rusty action figures. The crows became famous feathered celebrities, was their own line of organic birdseed. And Rusty, the star of it all, signed off every single episode with his new, iconic catchphrase, broadcasting it to millions of listeners around the globe. Remember, folks, don't just grow crops, grow smiles. As the sun would sit over Greenleaf Valley, casting long shadows across the comedy crop and the cheering crows, you could almost hear a soft chuckle on the wind. Because sometimes, the best harvest isn't corn or wheat, it's joy. Thanks for watching our story today. If you enjoyed the tale of Joe and Rusty, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories that will make you smile. We'll see you in the next one.